get into the Middle East. We discussed a bit of it last week, of course, with the announcement of this remarkable agreement, an agreement that no matter how you slice it, stops the bleeding at the moment in Gaza, permits the humanitarian aid to get into Gaza, and releases the hostages, and potentially opens the door to a very different situation with Palestinians, with Israel, and with the Middle East. I'd suggest, without question, there is a changed Middle East. That was already underway, and it was largely against the backdrop of a changed Middle East, a rising group of countries that were more anxious, frankly, to quack a little like the West, to develop alternatives to sort of the oil-rich decadence that had informed decade after decade there in the Middle East. I'd suggest that that motivated a lot of this moment. And as you know, if you were here last week, I give Trump credit for this. I know you guys don't want to hear that, but I give him credit for this. I do not think that Joe Biden could have gotten this done. I do not think that Kamala Harris could have gotten this done.
Why?
Just stating it bluntly. They don't have the relationships necessary to get it done. There is no relationship. I'll ask you. I'll throw it back at you. Did Joe Biden have any relationship? Now, I have to step out of this movie for a second and just say, look, I'm horribly disgusted by this grotesque regime that is in Washington, with the takeover of American cities, with the complete disregard for the law, the dismantling of critical government programs, the utter denial of science, the return now of diseases that were long eradicated
I'd like to
because
add,
of this madness. So please don't misunderstand me. But now let's get back to the Middle East.
Mhm.
Tell me the relationship that Kamala Harris had with any of the players here. I include Israel, the ally of America, or Joe Biden had with any of the players here, and I include Israel, to possibly get this done. I think this is the problem. The left isn't willing to ever call anything objectively. I do believe Trump, I've just told you what I think of Trump. I've just told you what I think of the administration, and that was just part of it. I mean, the ICE raids and the supercharging of DHS and the population of government with utter incompetence that are just loyalists. I mean, it's disgusting. It's awful. It's a complete grotesque mess, chaotic horror. But I don't think anybody else could have gotten this done. Now I turn it to you. Give me the argument for why somebody else could have.
I just don't know if business relationships, which just seems what they are, transactional relationships. You give me money, you give me a plane, I give you security. You give me money, you give me this, we'll let you build a Trump Tower in whatever city. If is that the nature of the relationship, the business relationship, the relationship based on these, billionaire transactions? Is that what how does Trump have relationships with these people?
So the answer is yes. That's
Mhm.
what the Middle East is. Take a look. It's transactional. That's why he's perfect for this moment. They don't look at this as some kind of philosophically underpinned view of the Middle East going forward. It's a bunch of deals with Qatar and UAE and Egypt. Look at these countries that are just really willing to do business. That's why I would say to Israel, be careful. Donald Trump is no friend of Israel.
Right.
But you still haven't answered my question. Tell me how Biden or Kamala Harris, you were the one who raised the objection. Tell me how they could have gotten it done. All you said is, well, really? It's a business deal? Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's a business deal.
Because maybe then I don't understand the nature of the relationship and why Trump's relationship with the folks in the Middle East is somehow perfect for this moment where others couldn't have done it. I mean, I look at a State Department who's probably been working to make the deal. These people that are longtime diplomats that have probably the wheels have been spinning since well before Trump took office. I don't know. I mean, I see Trump sweeping in to take a bow and take the moment and call for the Nobel Peace Prize. And I mean, if it's his due, it's his due. But I don't necessarily know that others couldn't have done the same thing.
Well, I mean, you've given me no argument. You've just kind of spun a bunch of stuff. I'll tell you
Yeah,
something.
I don't have one.
You don't have one because there isn't one. I mean,
But I don't know. I
this
don't
is
know
the
if you.
honest situation.
I'm just saying. I don't know if you have one either. Really.
What? I just gave it to you. I'll give it to you again. The relationships here associated with the Middle East are effed up, Kim. You have to this region is dictated by a bunch of self-interests. Why do you think? Let me just tell you another a crude reality of the Middle East, please, and that is that the Middle East doesn't give an F about the Palestinians. None of them do. How's that? Try that shoe on for a while. You know, Egypt is a bordering country to Gaza. They wouldn't let any Palestinian refugees in from Gaza. Even as Gaza was being bombed gutless, they wouldn't allow any of them in to Egypt. I mean, that gives you some sense of the posture of Egypt toward the Palestinians. Jordan is another example. Look at the historic relationship between the Palestinians and Jordan. They also are not there for the Palestinians. They were there for Hezbollah because they had a transactional relationship with Hezbollah. Hezbollah basically took over. These are all countries that only have an interest in these sorts of transactional relationships.
So how does that then lead to long-lasting peace?
Because, well, first of all, let's establish our goals here. I wanted to, I don't know what your goal was, but I presume it was the same. I think all of our goals were aligned on this. I wanted to stop the Gaza thing. I wanted to stop it. Ceasefire, stop. There are humanitarian horrors going on in Gaza that I just can't countenance. I can't see anymore. So I'm just trying to get to short term on that. Stop the bleeding. And then long term, you have to protect these various relationships and transactions that are going forward. So I think that to stop the Gaza humanitarian grotesque horror show, you needed relationships with Netanyahu, which Trump had, and you needed relationships with the Qataris. Now, why did you need a relationship with the Qataris, Kim?
I don't know the answer because you needed a jet?
No, because the Qataris were funding Hamas for a long time. They housed Hamas. And so when you got the Qataris over to have a conversation about what was going to go on in Gaza, and then you got other Arab signatories to that same agreement, you were forging a different Middle East, a different face of the Middle East, if you will. Now, many of these traditional enemies become allies in the effort to bring peace to this region and to the Gaza conflict. And you're right. It is an unholy alliance. It is completely corrupt. I'll give you another example. The Qataris gave a deal to the Trumps to build a golf course in Qatar. It's a completely corrupt deal, Kim. Mm-hmm. This is while all of this stuff is going on. So they got a plane from Qatar. They got a golf course, the Trumps did, not the United States, all right? It's a straight up put pocket in the Trumps, put money in the Trump pocket deal. But it is in a world of unholy alliances there in the Middle East that Trump, in his self-enrichment quest, had the kind of relationships to actually broker this deal. And I don't believe Biden or Kamala Harris could have gotten close to it. And I think I've laid out the arguments well, and I have yet to hear one from you.
Well, what does it mean? I'm trying to understand. What does it mean then? If we just made a deal with people who have funded Hamas, did we make a deal with the devil? And what does it mean going forward, because today everyone is celebrating and the bullets have stopped flying, and that's great. But if you make a deal with the devil, what does it mean a few months down the road? What are we on the hook for here?
I, I, that's skipping ahead in the movie, but I'm happy to skip ahead in it if you'd like. So here's what I would say on a couple of months from now. You've got a shaky peace agreement, which is why I think we kind of talk about this as a dark deal, because the signatories to this agreement are there at this moment. Hostages return, humanitarian aid gets in, and this is critical stuff. I mean, that's why I'm so passionate about this, because I really wanted this humanitarian disaster to stop. So everybody who's in the street going, out of Gaza, stop, 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 but you're not willing in the moment where it stops to admit any of the players who are associated with it. I mean, I've just told you I hate these people, but I'm ready to give them credit for this moment in time. So what happens months from now is that shaky, dark agreement begins to break down. And here's how it happens, potentially. Potentially, first of all, there are a bunch of Hamas fighters who don't want to give up their arms. I mean, the whole Hamas gives up its arms thing, if you actually get into this deal, what does that mean? Are they going to give up their sidearms, their weapons that they use for... this is the kind of way in which that Hamas ruled in sort of a warlord way Gaza. And Hamas could easily, in sort of an insurgent way, destroy any peace. And it may not even be Hamas. It may just be people going, hey, I don't like the fact that we have peace with the Israelis, desert to the sea type stuff, and I'm going to create an insurgent militia, and I'm going to go after Israeli forces, other foreign forces and Arab forces that are in the region, and that can be destabilizing. All right, and let's be fair. It could be the Israelis. The Israelis go, hey, Hamas has violated the peace. This agreement is void for the moment until we do X, Y, Z in some kind of military operation. That could happen too. So that's months from now. But again, I'm concerned with the moment of stopping this horror that was in Gaza. And these guys did it. And I'm ready to give them credit. And again, they did it with this unholy business alliance to which Kim has referred, which is associated with money. It's associated with trade deals. Part of this deal was the tariff thing. It's associated with payoffs. And before you guys get so high and mighty on me, do you know the way in which Afghanistan went down? Do you guys really get Afghanistan? What was the biggest way in which Afghanistan turned for the Americans, for the West? Was it the occupation of various strategic areas of Afghanistan with American troops? Was it the training of local militia to fight back against the Taliban? No. It was paying off, everybody. Look it up. That's how the Afghani-American relationship was vaulted to another level. That's how women got their rights. That's how progress was made, incremental though it was in Afghanistan, paying off all those warlords, all that militia. Look it up in Petraeus's book. He writes about it. So before everybody gets, well, I don't, the plane, and I agree with you on the plane. I agree with you on all this stuff. It's corruption, baby. It's a parade of corruption in a corrupt environment. That's the only way to get things done sometimes. So that's where I am on this. You put up a comment for a long time, and I'm sorry, I just couldn't look at it because I was busy saying something. Was that important for me to see?
Yeah.
My husband is from Gaza City, says Vivian. He is hopeful and doubtful at the same time. All his family lost their homes, and some of his family was killed during the war.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The question is, who will be head of the new government? Right, and that is a huge question. Thank you, Vivian, for that $20 super chat. That's a huge question. Yeah, who will govern Gaza? Thank you. I mean, that really is very important. And this coalition of peace partners, how many of them will actually have a physical presence in Gaza to help keep the peace? But This is the key here. You got buy-in from all of these different countries. They all have skin in the game. You could not have gotten that except from this corrupt leadership that America has. You couldn't have done it. There are too many conflicting interests. And now they all do have skin in the game for all the wrong reasons you may feel. And I think you'd be right to feel that. But all I wanted to do was stop the killing. And this actually stopped the killing. Trump never should have been in a position to negotiate this deal, says Tim. There is no one that has or had more respect around this or a better understanding of the world than Joe Biden. Well, that's not, I mean, you may be right about the first part, that Trump shouldn't have been there for a number of different reasons, not the least of which he tried to overthrow his own government on January 6th and then beyond. I think that is a sin for which he should never be forgiven, and now it's being papered over in all these creative ways. So I completely agree. But I disagree with the notion that nobody knew the Middle East better than Joe Biden, please. I mean, I'm not ready to lionize Joe Biden. I mean, as I say, Joe Biden was probably right when he scolded Israel and said, what's going on here? Stop the killing. Stop. He was right. But he couldn't get it done because he didn't have the corrupt, unholy alliances to which I've referred in my conversation with Kim. And this is why Trump has gotten some of this done. He's willing to deal, no matter how corrupt it seems, with Middle East leaders. Exactly. Randy is underscoring what I'm saying. I mean, you know, I don't know what the parallel would be. If you want to break up a drug ring, sometimes you got to go undercover as a corrupt drug lord. In this case, you don't have to go undercover. America is corrupt. Now completely corrupted to its core. The government of America is completely corrupt. Open for business. But that's what you needed. An America corrupt, open for business, only caring about transactions, with solid relationships with UAE, Qatar, Egypt, everyone in the region wanting to do business with Trump, because all of a sudden you had one of them. Somebody who's just there for the money, just there to make a deal. He's one of them. And so they made this deal purely transactional. For them, perhaps self-enriching. There were other variables, external variables. There he is with the president of Egypt. I'll play you a little bit of that in a second. Hostages released, families relieved, and have some closure. Let's take step one, Tony SS. Thank you. That's exactly what I'm saying. Wes says, I agree. Trump was made for dealing with this type of thing. Middle East leaders are mostly corrupt, and who knows better than a corrupt man like Trump? Thank you. That's exactly what I'm saying. And these people who have lived in this corruption decade after decade, keeping their people down in all sorts of creative ways, which include funding terrorism of one sort or another. That's why it's a remarkable, amazing thing that the Qataris are really head of the parade on this. They helped broker this with Hamas because they have the relationship with Hamas and they funded Hamas. They're all now wanting to evolve their countries to another place. So it's not just oil and guns. They're all wanting to get to the next place. It's transactional, it's business, it's corrupt, but it's the next place. And Trump, in his rudimentary understanding of this, which is only associated with these business deals, these unholy business relationships, he was able to understand that and say, let's get everybody going. And the Qataris were motivated in part by the fact that there was that attack by Israel, an attempt to take out Hamas leadership that really whipped their head around. It hit Qatar. It's like, what? And that's how that guarantee of security from America came about. So you had Trump stepping forward and saying, we're going to guarantee your security. Then you had this navigating of this very tough relationship with all of these different parties, including Hamas. But once the Qatar-America relationship was better, once the Qatar-America relationship moved to another place, after the attack on Qatar, after the guarantee from America of Qatar's security, the Israelis got the memo. We can do business with Qatar, and more importantly, perhaps in all of this, Hamas got the memo from Qatar. You guys are going to make this deal because that's the key player for Hamas, the Qataris. So I'm simply saying all of these unholy, corrupt pieces could not have come together with another administration that we've just seen. Not with Biden and not with Kamala Harris. And that's a full stop. That's the crude truth of this. And so we end up with a great day where hostages are released, where humanitarian relief does get in, and where hostilities, it would appear, have stopped for the moment. Albert, show us a little bit of the wrap package on the hostages being released and what's happened overnight.
This morning, the world witnessing extraordinary scenes in Israel. The first images of those 20 Israeli hostages turned over as family members cried and crowds by the tens of thousands erupted in applause. And there were cheers for President Trump touching down today in Israel to announce to the world the hostages have been released and continue his push for a path towards peace. The homecoming and the reunions of families torn apart for more than 2 years, the first stage of the U.S. brokered peace deal. President Trump meeting with them and marking this historic moment by writing in a book at the Israeli parliament, "This is my great honor, a great and beautiful day, a new beginning." As the hostages return home, there are more stages to come in the process. 2,000 Palestinian prisoners set to be freed. And humanitarian aid starting to flow into Gaza, where the devastation of the war is unmistakable. Back in Tel Aviv, relief for the hostages returning home, but many still in mourning for those lost, like John and Rachel Goldberg Poland, whose son Hirsch was killed in captivity.
What are these families going through right now, the ones that are going to get both maybe their loved ones back, but also the remains of their loved ones?
It means a lot to be getting them back.
That's what we all have been fighting and hoping and praying over for 737 inexplicable, torturous days.
As for those 2,000 Palestinian prisoners and detainees, we understand that process has now started to release them. This was part of the phase one in exchange for those 20 living Israeli hostages, but there are still a lot of questions that are unanswered about phase two. What happens in Gaza? Who rules Gaza? And what happens to Hamas? Will they fully surrender? And if they don't, what happens next?
Yeah, I think that sort of echoes the questions that we asked. Yeah, who will rule Gaza and what happens next? But in the moment, we got to a good place. And if Trump gets peace in the Middle East, it's only because he wants a piece of the Middle East, Nullifidian says. Thanks for the $5 super chat. I mean, I wouldn't contest that. As I just told you, he made a deal in Qatar for his golf resort. I mean, again, I'm not suggesting that Trump had some lofty goal, but I do think he wanted this moment, and he deserves this moment. Trevor Starr in Hollywood says, welcome to MAGA Mark Monday. No, I know. I sound very MAGA-y just because I really feel that, just to restate it, Trump was the right guy who could make this unholy, corrupt deal with unholy, corrupt people in an unholy, corrupt world. And you can wave the American flag and say, well, we're not happy with Israel and Gaza. We're not happy with Hamas and what happened on October 7th. You can wave that flag, but you still got to stop the killing. And you still got to get the humanitarian relief in. And you still got to get the hostages out. And I'm afraid the flag waving just doesn't carry it. And so I do give the devil his due on this. It's a Faustian bargain, says Harry. Thanks for the $5 super chat. Trump promised U.S. troops to defend Qatar, and then there's the Air Force Base in Idaho. Yeah, I think that's another example of a deal made. I mean, Qatar is clearly a real relationship that Trump has. But why is that significant in the context of the Middle East? for the reasons I gave you before. Qatar is a key player when it comes to Hamas. So if you're trying to get a deal with Hamas, you need to talk to their daddy. And their daddy is Qatar. They fund them, they house them. So the minute you're their daddy, you're Qatar's daddy, or new boyfriend, however, I don't know what the relationship is, but clearly, like, we're the new sugar daddy in part. They want a relationship with Trump, and they want a relationship with the U.S., and they're ready to heal their dog, which is Hamas. They're ready to make Hamas come to the table and make a deal in Gaza. They're ready to get Hamas to agree, at least in principle. And again, this is kind of one of those iffy, squishy areas because I don't know what it really means. Disarm. I mean, that's a pretty big thing. And as I say, you needed Qatar to do it. And so, yeah, I think Trump golf course, certainly Qatari guarantee of security, and now the relationship with America in Idaho. These are all things of a kind. So, yeah, a lot of unholy aspects to this. But once again, I think Trump was and is uniquely set up for this deal to be made. Now he's crushing, meaning destroying, so much else. So please don't get me wrong. I mean, you know, he may be like that. There's that stupid thing, like if you put 1,000 monkeys in a room and they, you know, with typewriters that, you know, one of them will write Shakespeare or whatever that crap is. I mean, it's still craziness. But, you know, I would say maybe, you know, if you put Trump in enough situations where he can see self-enrichment and a possible deal, you know, he'll make a historic deal. And he did.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think this is historic. This has gone on for 2 years. It's been a humanitarian, grotesque horror show. And everybody screamed that it should stop. You have thousands gathered in the streets all across the world demanding a stop to it. It's been called a genocide. It's been documented in all these horrible ways. Well, this guy actually did engineer the end to this. And it might have had a lot of unholy elements, and he himself is an insanely corrupt, unholy man. But he met the moment with this deal, and now it's a peace for time, and hopefully for an extended time. So, hi, it's Mark, right. And I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.